based from your stories, then you have matched certain scenarios where you met exclusion through being a female or mother or uh, someone from Bangladesh or all of us being foreigners in a foreign country. But then after addressing these problems, how do you two hope that it will change in the future, looking at like an inclusive smart society? How do you hope these issues will be tackled in the future, and can they be tackled in the future?
Well, I think simply the term is a bit difficult for anybody understand, and also anybody can be minority in any environment actually. So now we just happen to be here as a foreigner. So, but as a person, maybe uh, we have to respect each one's their experiences or their knowledge or their culture and yeah everything about them. So uh, we have to, I think it will take a lot of time to let everybody feel the same. So but if we just focus on the certain area we belong to, then people they want to make a just unity maybe group to feel the I mean the strong willing inside of that group. So that is also disturbing the our I mean inclusivity. So I think uh, we cannot solve this problem in a short period, but we can mm, broad the way of thinking. We are the same human at anywhere, okay, and then but we need to search or think study about how to live together better. That is more smart way uh, to develop the our environment and the product or systems. So, yeah, that is my senses.
Yeah, I mean, this is you said it beautifully. I think so many things that resonated. Like we are minority, majority, whatever that our understanding is. It's never fixed because our power position is never fixed. I am something at this position that I am not when I move and I go into a different place, right? So our power is never fixed. Our identities are also not fixed. It changes with as we move around. So we can be minority, majority, powerful, powerless at any given point of our life. So I really resonate with that. I think thinking about the future, I think it has always been part of conversations. I think there are two ways to actually move forward. The first is really, I mean, I agree with Professor Lee that we need to have some basic understanding that what is inclusivity? Are we talking about it? Because there is a practice of institutional exclusion. There is a practice of putting certain community members, like leaving them behind. There is a practice. Sometimes it's done intentionally, sometimes this is how the society has evolved. There are so many, it's very complex, like how we have reached to that point. But we know that it exists. Like me as a brown Muslim person in America versus a queer person in Bangladesh. I have experienced many facet of like how there are certain moments that made me feel that I am excluded. So I think the first step to that is having an awareness. I agree with that. A simple understanding, like with simple words, with simple, people need to acknowledge. Because right now, again, if we think about the United States, what the current regime, the current government, the Trump administration is saying, that it does not exist. They're saying that talking about inclusivity is actually racist, right? So they are saying that institutional discrimination does not exist. Everything is merit based. Everything is merit based. Think about merit, now looking at like the U.S. administration, it doesn't look that, like merit based administration. So, and then people are talking about merits and all of that. So I think there has to be some basic understanding and basic acknowledgement. Like, I'm from Bangladesh, and so many, engineering students and science, like STEM students, who are just, or medical science, they're just studying all these areas, and they never think about any other social consequences. Like, so that's why I'm so inspired by what you're doing, Professor Lee, because you are bringing technology and this awareness together. So this kind of connection is very important, because just someone who's studying medical science in Bangladesh, or like, trying to become a doctor, they just don't think that they have any obligation to think about like where their patients are coming from, what's their income, like, purchase power, or like, like, do they have, like, what class do they belong, like what kind of education they have. They never think about any of that. So that basic level is number one. That's very foundational, that people need to understand that like, like, discrimination exists in every society in different shapes and forms. But the second layer of that, once we acknowledge it, is that having a more critical understanding that inclusion doesn't mean just tokenizing someone. That, there's the woman, like, single parents, a brown, a Muslim, a queer, and then we bring them together and this is just fixed. It's never that. So to reach, and I think that is a deeper level engagement. To reach to that point, you have to first acknowledge that exclusion exists. So unfortunately, like, we live in a world that goes one step forward and two steps backward. So there are times when a lot of progress, a lot of critical conversation, at least in the US, I have felt after George Floyd's murder from 2022 to 2024, there was a lot of critical conversations happening, which is very, very, I was very hopeful that, people just not saying that, open DEI, that's not the solution. Just, acknowledge that, talk about liberation, talk about transformative justice, talk about redistribution of wealth, talk about giving back the land to indigenous people. That sort of like transformative justice conversation was happening. But then I think in 2024, after the election, the thing is going backward now again. So people are saying that diversity and inclusion is all about excluding white people or excluding some people. So this is a discriminatory practice itself. And they are kind of putting this, juxtaposing this, like diversity and like, inclusion, just inclusion, against, juxtaposing it against merit. So, which is a false dichotomy. It is absolutely false. This is not how it works. This is not how we should think about it. So yes, that's the answer. Like, my short way of, like, dealing with this situation is that first we have to acknowledge that this exists, exclusion exists, and second, we need a much deeper and critical and institutional understanding than why it's there in design, in engineering, in social science. I think, in arts, it exists everywhere. In governance, it exists everywhere. So that's how I think about it. So it needs to be fought on different fronts, many different fronts, and not just one way of thinking.